Welcome to today's presentation on multi-entity analysis and reporting with Sage 300. My name is Steve, and today I am joined by John from Dingosoft and Anne from Orchid. Dingosoft and Orchid are based in Sydney, Australia, and have enjoyed a close working relationship for many years. I can clearly remember a moment in time back in the 1990s installing the first multi-user CA ACPAC 2000 site in Australia and calling on John for assistance. Our customer, a multinational insurance company, had premises in the centre of Sydney overlooking the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge. Whilst chatting to John, I looked north over the water and could see the building John and Computer Associates worked from. At the time, I thought that area would be a great place to be based in, and shortly thereafter, Orchid moved into North Sydney, and we've been there ever since. The client had complex reporting requirements which prompted the move to CA ACPAC 2000, the forerunner of Sage 300. The software licensing was controlled by hardware dongles like this. Over the years, with the addition of third-party products like Orchid's Inter-Entity Suite, Sage 300 has matured into a product well suited to groups with multiple entities all interacting with each other with complex reporting requirements. We were not at all surprised when Sage recently reported that the average Sage 300 site has 8 entities being accounted for, and that one site has over 800 entities. Sage 300's standard built-in reporting tools are not geared to handle multi-entity reporting. This is where Dingosoft's FRS and Orchid's Info Explorer have a key role to play. We will be demonstrating how FRS and Info Explorer can be used to analyze and report off multiple Sage 300 databases without needing to replicate data. The scenario we are running through involves 2 entities which trade with each other and receive and make payments on behalf of each other. Orchid's Inter-Entity Transaction Suite keeps everything in balance automatically and eliminates the need to rekey data. On top of this, FRS provides comprehensive financial reporting across the databases, and Info Explorer delivers the integrated multi-entity analysis. Without further ado, I'll pass you over to John for a run through FRS. Over to you, John.
Thanks for that, Steve, and also thanks very much for inviting me to participate in this webinar on multi-entity reporting. FRS and Info Explorer work really well together in that the simple user interface in FRS makes it easy to generate the financial data you want, which you can then use with Info Explorer to slice and dice however you like. FRS stands for Financial Reporter for Sage 300. It's developed entirely in the SDK, and it's the first financial report designer that works with Crystal Reports. We developed the product because there was a need for a financial reporter that worked with both Sage 300 on the desktop and also worked with the new web screens in the cloud. The web screens for FRS are basically working, as you can see on the screen at the moment. However, there are still a few problems with the web SDK which have been fixed in the 2022 SDK. So we'll be releasing the web screens for FRS in the 2022 version shortly. At first, we'll be releasing just the print financial statement screen, and the designer screens will come later. But because it's a true hybrid desktop cloud product, you can design statements on the desktop and your client or whoever can then print them in the cloud. FRS is extremely easy to get up and running. In fact, all you have to do is install it and activate it. So if you go to the Dingosoft website, either by Googling Dingosoft or going direct to dingosoft.co, you can download the product, which has a 30-day demo period. Probably the best place to download it from is the partners page, which has a download section with all our downloads, so you can select which version you want to download. Then just run the install.exe, and you can just accept all the defaults. It knows where to install to. Then once it's installed, just go into Sage 300. It's a standard Sage 300 module, so you activate it just like any other Sage 300 module. And that's it. You can now go into the print financial statement screen and print a balance sheet or any of the other standard financial statements, as they all work with any company database out of the box. The standard reports include all of the regular balance sheets and income statements, as well as net periods for each month, trailing 12 periods, actual/forecast 12 periods, which gives you actuals up to the current period and then forecast for the rest of the year. And there's even a cash flow statement. So there we have a nice looking balance sheet for this company, and that took way less than 2 minutes to implement the product and produce a balance sheet. Okay, let's now have a more detailed look at the product, and we'll start with a quick look in the setup folder. In here we have email recipients, so that you can email financial statements to people, as well as recipient groups, so that you can email to groups of people, and email messages, of course, including the default message, which is there when you activate the product. And one nice feature is that we show you all of the text variables you can use, and you can just cut and paste those into your email. We have a chart of accounts, which is different to the one in GL in that ours shows the account groups and the account group categories, which is important for financial reporting. And so you can just scroll down through the list and check that all of the account groups are correct. And if there's any problem, you can just drill down to the account to make any changes. We have company groups, which allow you to report on specific companies, as well as specify the rate type to use for consolidations if it has a different functional currency. We'll see where you can use these shortly. Report sets allow you to print multiple financial statements at the same time, as well as set defaults for things like delivery method and format. And you can have all of the reports in the report set go to a single file, which looks like this. This is a contents page, and then in the same file we've got the balance sheet and the income statement, forecasted income statement, which shows you actuals up to the current period and forecast for the rest of the year, trailing 12 periods income statement with a graph. Graphing is done in the Crystal Designer, and we even have a cash flow statement. And these are all standard reports that you can print for any company database out of the box. And then in options, we just have licensing information and email setup. Okay, let's now have a look at the statement designer. FRS uses row sets, column sets, and optionally data sets. And these are like report building blocks, and you can mix and match these to create different reports. Row sets define all of the rows in your reports. So for example, the balance sheet row set defines all the rows for your current assets and non-current assets, depreciation, liabilities, etc. Now these row sets can be used in multiple reports, so that if you do need to, for example, make a change, you only need to make a change once, which saves time. But as well as that, it ensures consistency between your reports. Similarly, column sets define all of the columns in your reports. And of course, like row sets, they can be used in multiple reports. So if you have a lot of reports that just have columns for current year, previous year, and variance, you only need the one column set for all those reports. Data sets allow you to select data for the report. So whether it's a range of account numbers or segments or account groups or even a range of companies. But you can also select companies by company groups, and there's our Orchid group of companies that we saw earlier. And you can select to print these either separately or consolidated. So these are basically the defaults for the print financial statements screen, and you can override these when you go to print. But if you're automating the printing with Windows Task Scheduler or something like that, then these are the values that will be used. So in report specifications, you select the row set, the column set, and optionally a data set for the report. And then you define the report headings and footers, and these are all quite customizable, quite powerful. There's a lot of text variables you can use, and there's a lot of options for changing the background color or having a border or changing the font or font color or font size. So you can make your reports look quite good. Then you select the layout for the report, so page size and orientation and margins and that sort of thing. And if you are doing something in Crystal, like adding a graph or something like that, you would save that as a separate file, and you can come in here and tell the report which Crystal report file to use. So you can point it to your customized Crystal report file. You then specify things like rounding. The default is whole numbers. You really shouldn't be showing cents in financial statements. In fact, you should be really using whole thousands or something like that. Reporting, you can report in any currency you like, and on the report screen you can select the rate to use. It will default to the rate for the current for the report date. You can let's see, you can report with actual or provisional, and you can include report options or audit information, which I'll show you later, and page numbers. And if you are creating a graph or something like that in Crystal, doing it with the report data itself would be quite difficult, because the report data is actually quite complex, because it has to be able to print financial statements in Crystal, because that's really something that Crystal's not meant to be able to do and has never been done before. So what we do is we give you a separate copy of the data in a cube or fact table type format in the DM Cube table, and you can use that to create graphs and other things very simply. So in fact, that data is so useful that we now have a separate table which stores the latest copy of that data permanently for each report, and that's the DM info table, and that's what we use with Orchid's Info Explorer. So if you do want to use FRS with Orchid's Info Explorer, you have to make sure you click this box for whichever report you want to slice and dice in Info Explorer. And you then have various options for the output, so delivery method and format, etc. Now we also have our own export and import, because to export a report would actually be 4 separate exports, because these are all separate screens. So you'd have to export the row sets separately and the column sets and whatever else. So we've created our own export and import, which exports everything in one hit, and also you can import the whole thing. So, and it's very simple. Just select where you want to export it to, and hit the export button. And similarly with importing, just browse to the file you're importing and hit import. So you can design reports for your clients and just very easily export it and send it to your client, and they can import it very easily. Okay, just want to quickly have a bit of a deeper look into row sets and column sets. As you can see, there's different types of rows. So there's like title rows, fiscal data rows, calculations. If we have a look at a fiscal data row, you can see that we are, well, this is where you select the accounts for this section of the report. So this is current assets. So what we're doing is we're selecting by account group category, and all of our standard reports are based on the account group category because you can't change the account group category. So they're the same in every company database. So that's how our standard reports are able to work with any company database. So, but you can, select by account number, account group, or segment, or whatever. And we're saying in range from cash and cash equivalents up to other current assets, and that's going to give us all the GL accounts that are current assets. And then what we do is we consolidate or summarize by account group sort code, and that's going to give us one line in the report for each account group, which is what we want. Then formatting, there's a lot of options, and we won't go into them, but you can format different types of fields separately. So like you can have one sort of formatting for currency fields and another for text fields. And they're all the sort of same options you see in Crystal, and basically a lot of these options are just passed through to Crystal. So, you can change the font and the font style and size and color and all that. And it'll give you a sample of what it looks like in that box there. Okay, and you can renumber rows and move rows up and down and that sort of thing, which makes life easier. And in column sets, there's basically two sections. There's the column headers, and there's lots of options there to, for your column headings. And then in the detail section, what we've done is we've used the same functions and fields as FR. So we have FRAMT, FRAMTAR, FI debit, FI credit, etc. And all the same fields from BEL-P down to BEL-PY-PA. So converting reports from FR to FRS is extremely easy. And I won't go into the rest of these options now, but there's a lot of powerful options that you can use for your columns. Okay, so let's now look at printing financial statements. You can see the print screen is very similar to FR with some very important differences. The first one being you can select a single statement to print, and you can use a finder to make it easy to find the report you want. Or you can select a report set, and that will print all of the reports in the report set in one go while you go make a cup of coffee or something. Then we have a field for reporting currency or presentation currency, which basically is just converting the figures as at the report date to any other currency. So you can just select any currency, and in the rates box down here, select or enter an exchange rate for the conversion. Then we have a option here for audit information, and this is actually quite handy. If I print a balance sheet and select audit information, you'll see that what it does is for each line of the report, it will give you a breakdown of all the GL accounts that make up that line in the report. So it's something that auditors will want to see, but also for your own information, it's handy to have. So you can see the lines in black are the lines that normally print on the report, and the lines in green are all the GL accounts that make up that amount on that line. So you may have printed out a balance sheet and saw this figure for other current assets and thought, oh, that doesn't look right. I'm not sure what makes up that figure. You can come in here and you can see, oh, that's right, there's some prepaid insurance and prepaid rent and what have you. So it's a handy feature to have. And then probably the biggest change is this radio button here, which allows you to select either a range of companies or a company group. We can then print these companies either separately or consolidated. If I print them separately first, just so you can see that it does do it. Okay, so on page 1 we have Orchid Inc. And if I go to page 2, we have Orchid Company Limited. Okay, so now if we consolidate them, you can see that the heading has changed to Orchid Group of Companies, and we just have the one page, which is the consolidated figures. The best way to show the consolidation though is by printing the companies side by side, and we have a report for that. And if I print that one, okay, you can see we have Orchid Group of Companies, and then we have a column for Orchid Company Inc. and a column for Orchid Company Limited, and the total consolidation, as well as percentage of total for the two companies. Now obviously with consolidations, it's not just adding both companies together. You have a lot of elimination entries to enter. Probably the best way to do that is in a separate company, and then you could, for example, show them in a report like this in a separate column. But you could also, post them in a provisionally posted batch in the current company if you prefer to do that. And that's all the time we have. So I'll be around at the end to answer any questions. So thanks to you guys for joining in. Thanks again to Orchid, and back to you, Steve.
Thanks for the FRS presentation, John. I will now hand you over to Anne, who will pick up from where John left off and will analyze the multi-entity data John extracted with FRS.
Thanks, Steve. Info Explorer supports multi-company analysis as it allows you to combine multiple data sources within a single cube. These data sources can be Sage 300 company databases. And just as you can analyze a single company's data, you'll be able to analyze data across multiple companies if your cube has multiple companies in it. You can slice and dice the data, filter and highlight the data to analyze business performance, identify trends and exceptions. You can have multiple views with the appropriate filters per view, graphs and dashboards to highlight the trends and exceptions. You can drill down to the underlying data in the cube, as well as drill through to the Sage 300 transaction or master file where appropriate. We're going to use the following 3 cubes to demonstrate multi-company analysis. First, we're going to look at a GL balance sheet and income statement, and this cube is based on the FRS summarized data from Orc Ltd and Orking 2 that you saw John working with earlier. Then we're going to look at a customer and item sales cube based on Orc Ltd and Orking 2, and the underlying transactions are the OE sales history. And then we're going to look at AP payables by GL account based on Orc Ltd and Orking 2, the individual AP transactions. You can run Info Explorer from your desktop, from your start bar, or if you want, you can put a shortcut onto your Sage 300 desktop to launch Info Explorer. But you do not need to have a Sage 300 LAN pack to run Info Explorer. I'm just going to open that FRS cube. And you can see we can have a number of different views of the data. And in this particular cube, we have the account group, the natural account, the division and region, which are segments in the chart of accounts, the company ID, the account type, period, fiscal year, and the full account number. And our current view we're looking at is the summary income statement, which is grouping the accounts together into the account group. And we have Orking 2's balance and Orc Ltd's balance. And we currently have data for 2019 and 2020. And this is the sum of 2019 and 2020, and the sum of Orking 2 and Orc Limited. And if we expand this plus sign beside the company ID, we can now see 2019 and 2020's data for Orking 2 and 2019 and 2020's data for Orc Limited. But if we'd rather see the data grouped by year, we could drag year to the left-hand side of company, and now we're seeing 2019, both companies, 2020, both companies, and a total. And if we wanted an annual total as well, we could go to our display and say show the column totals. So now we're getting a 2019 and a 2020 total. So any of these dimensions can be dragged and dropped to your rows and columns, and the data can be viewed accordingly. So if I want to see the natural account below my revenue, I can click this plus sign, and I can now see all the accounts that make up our revenue group, still split out 2019, company Orc Inc. 2, Orc Limited, and 2020, Orc Inc. 2 and Orc Limited. And if I wanted to view all my rows and columns, I could click expand, and that will automatically expand all our rows and columns. And to keep a total for our account group, again on the display tab we can show our row totals. And if we wanted to collapse again, it would take us back to our original summarized view. And similarly, we've got a summary of a balance sheet, and we could do the same expansion on the balance sheet accounts as well. But if I wanted to see this summary income statement by division or by region, I could make a copy of this view, rename it, and now I could drag my division down either as a row or as a column. And I'm just going to select 1 year to simplify the reporting. And now when I expand the year, I get the 2 companies as well as a total for each company and our 2 divisions. And in Orc Limited, we've also got some postings to the blank division. And if we'd rather look at region, we could drag this up and drag region down. And we've now got our summary income statement by region. And just as we have been dragging the region and division down, we could work with any of the other dimensions too. So looking at the summary balance sheet, if I make this view a little smaller, I'm just going to look at 2019, and I'm just going to look at one company, Orc Limited. I could then drag my period down. And I'm now seeing the opening balance and all the periods for that particular year. So you can have as many views as you want, showing the data with your different rows and columns. And when you save this cube, next time it's refreshed, you will have not only the original 5 that when I first opened up, but our divisional income statement as well, and our summary balance sheet will be expanded by period as well. In terms of security for a cube, you are able to apply passwords to the entire cube, to the database that the cube is connecting to the individual cubes. If you've got multiple queries in one cube, you can apply a password to the refresh of the cube. And if you're using Info Explorer with writeback, you can protect who can write back the amended data and who can amend the query for the amended data. So there's quite a lot of security you can set around your individual cubes. And in terms of the refresh, this cube was last refreshed yesterday at 10 p.m. So cubes can be refreshed overnight using Process Scheduler and emailed to people, or just left on a network share for somebody to open the next day. So you don't need to have all your cubes being refreshed during the day either. We have now seen some of the features of Info Explorer reporting across 2 company databases at the GL level. Now I'm going to have a look at customer and item sales across the same 2 companies. I'm now going to open my customer item sales from my recents menu. And you can see we can have dashboards, which are a collection of the views and graphs. And this cube has multiple views of the same data. The sales ranked by customer, the sales ranked by item, the sales ranked by salesperson, and so on. And from any of these views, you can create a chart. And any of these views and charts can be put on your dashboard. So looking at this data a little more closely, we can see in this particular view we have our customer number, and if we expand the customer number, we see the items within the customer, and we're seeing Orc Inc. 2 and Orc Limited and a total of the sales. So these are the net sales, which has been brought in from the underlying query. But on the cube itself, we have calculated a margin percent and a sales rank of this customer within this company. So you can add fields to do your own calculations in the cube. So the sales rank is a fact of type descending rank of our net sales. And the margin percent is a formula saying if the net sales is 0, make it 0. Otherwise, it's the margin value divided by the net sales times by 100. So you can add as many calculations in the cube as you want, and you can also apply conditional formatting like we have done to our margin percent. So we've applied a style. If it's less than 50, it goes traffic light red. If it's between 50 and 60, it's orange. And if it's greater than 60, it's green. And we're currently looking at our margin percent for Ronald Black in Orc Inc. 2, our margin percent for Ronald Black in Orc Limited, and the total margin percent for Ronald Black across Orc Limited and Orc Inc. 2. And Ronald Black is ranked number 1 in Orc Inc. 2 number 1 in Orc Limited and number 1 across both the companies. And if we were to expand to see our items, we're now seeing that this item A11030 is ranked number 1 for Ronald Black. A13100 is ranked number 2 for Ronald Black in Orc Inc. 2, but number 3 in Orc Limited and number 3 overall. So our added formulas are recalculated based on the data we're currently looking at. And if we turn on our row totals, we still see that the customer is being calculated with respect to the total. So Ronald Black is ranked number 1, but within the customer, the items are being ranked per company and in the total year. And we can also sort by these columns. So if we wanted to sort by our total sales, we can sort our customer ranked by total sales, as opposed to sorting our customers ascending by margin percent. And if this is the view we would rather see on our dashboard, we could close one of the other views and drag this new view onto our dashboard. And tomorrow when we open the cube, this is the one that would be in our dashboard. We have now seen some additional Info Explorer functionality applied to customer and item sales across 2 company databases. And now we're going to look at accounts payable by GL account, again across 2 company databases. I'm going to open the AP cube from my recents. And we see the different components of a cube. We've got a dashboard with collections of different views, AP payments by distribution code, and AP group code, AP vendor group code, purchases by vendor and company, purchases by GL account, purchases by currency, by company. So Orc Inc. 2 is USD only, but in Orc Limited we have purchases by currency. And if we want to see the vendors that make up that currency, we could drag down the vendor code and now we've got our vendors grouped by currency and so on. But in looking at this AP purchases by distribution code, here we have purchases with no distribution code and the purchases spread across the different distribution codes. And in this cube, we've added a percentage of column based on the amount excluding tax in functional currency. In the same way as we added formulas to our sales cube, we've added a percent of column formula. So for the amount excluding tax percent, it's the sum and it's shown as a percent of the column. So we can see that in Orc Limited, rent is 11%, travel is 15% in 2019. In 2020, we have got travel being 2% in Orc Limited, and Orc Inc. 2, it's 4%. So if we thought this 15% is rather a large amount, this 1.1 million, you can drill down to the underlying transactions that make up that particular amount. So we can see all the different invoices that were posted against that particular amount. But you can also, let's just filter and look only at our travel distribution. I'm just trying to make the view a bit smaller. And let's drag down the vendor code so we can see which vendors these are. And in this cube, one of the dimensions is the AP document number. So we could drag that down too. So we could see which amounts, which invoices were posted against the vendors. I'll just collapse this to make it a little bit simpler to look at. so we can see which vendors have been posted at, and if there's a particular vendor that looks too high, this Marshall Davidson, we could expand and find the individual document numbers. And looking at this invoice, which looks somewhat too high, we can right-hand mouse button and drill through to the AP invoice. We could also drill through to the vendor activity. But when we drill through to the AP invoice, at this stage it asks us to connect to a Sage 300 company, and at this stage I am subject to the security in that company, and I am consuming a LAN pack. So up until now, all the analysis I've done, I have not required a LAN pack, but at this point I am requiring a LAN pack. And when you drill through to an AP document, it will open up the AP invoice batch where that particular document was posted. And if this had come from purchase orders, we would have had the drill through to go back to the original purchase invoice that was entered as well. So Info Explorer supports both drill down into a total to see the underlying transactions and drill through back to the master file where appropriate, or the individual transaction. So if we were to drill through based on the vendor activity, it will now go into AP vendors 2150, and we have the normal functionality from AP vendor activity. Using these three cubes, GL, balance sheet and income statement, customer and item sales, AP payables by GL account, we have seen that you can use Info Explorer for multi-dimensional cubes across multiple companies. We've seen how we can slice and dice the data across multiple companies and analyze our data, identifying trends and exceptions. We've seen how you can drill through to Sage 300 for more information on the transactions and the master files and their summary information. We've also seen how we can add conditional formatting or traffic light reporting to highlight our margin percent, and creating formulas and filters to be able to highlight and isolate the data we want to analyze further. We can have multiple views on the same data and group these different views together with graphs on dashboards. And we've explored some of the security options that you can have on a cube too. Info Explorer works online, and you can refresh if you're in the office and connected to the SQL database, or you can access the data offline as the data is stored in the cube for analysis purposes. And on our website we have many sample cubes for all the different modules, and many of the third parties too. Info Explorer is an affordable business intelligence tool. We have looked at some of the analysis capabilities of Info Explorer, but there is a version of Info Explorer which allows you to create and maintain budgets and update back through into the Sage 300 database with your budgeted figure. And there's also a version of Info Explorer which allows you to test the functionality before you buy. Please go to our website for more information on Info Explorer and any of our other products.
We have run through how FRS and Info Explorer can be used for multi-entity financial analysis and consolidated reporting. If you would like further information on these modules, please contact your Sage solution provider and be sure to visit www.orchid.systems and www.dingosoft.co.